I'm James Rule. Welcome to the Lonely Leader podcast, where we help existing and aspiring leaders find clarity, build resilience, drive performance, and enhance fulfillment. Welcome to the Lonely Leader podcast. I'm James Rule, and today we're talking about another leadership essential, consistency. The Leadership Essentials series is designed as a short, sharp insight into leadership traits that I believe each and every one of us needs to enhance and ensure is part of our leadership DNA. And consistency is something that's easy to overlook. We look at leaders in any facet of life, sport, entertainment, business, politics, military, and we look at these big plays, these big moments of success, and often we sit back in awe and think, wow, that talent, that ability to execute in the moment, I could never do that. And yes, talent plays a part in all success, but in reality, for many high performers, when you get under the bonnet, you get under the hood of the detail that leads to those moments, you will find that they all embody consistency. The ability to do the little things consistently often leads to those big moments, those big plays, those big moments of execution. And therefore, the rallying call, the call to action of this particular episode is to reflect and consider where in your life, both professionally and personally, do you need to be more consistent in order to find those higher levels of performance and ultimately higher levels of fulfillment in both your professional role and the roles you play in your personal life. As usual, I like to bring these essentials to life by reflecting on individuals that epitomize them. If I look into sport, somebody like Cristiano Ronaldo, a world-renowned footballer, yes, he divides opinion. Some people are fans, some people are not. Irrespective of that personal opinion, if you look at a universal truth for high performers such as Ronaldo, you find consistency. He will be the first to talk about the consistency he applies to his diet, the consistency he applies to how he trains and recovers. It's that consistency that's allowed him to play at the top flight for such an extended period of time. If I come out of sport into music, somebody that's been very popular in my household recently with my daughters, Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift has had this epic, iconic global tour, and it's easy to focus in on that and say, wow, well, she's lucky. She's had this moment. How wonderful for her. And yes, granted, of course it is. But it didn't just happen overnight. There is somebody who has spent decades refining her craft, writing music, playing instruments, performing to get to that level of performance that she can command the level of ticket sales and the level of adulation that drove that global tour. And she consistently moved forward, stayed true to herself, despite a lot of external noise and criticism. She continued to apply herself and was rewarded with that global tour, that global success. And I think sport and music is easy to find a whole plethora of examples of people who have these moments of success, but when you hear them interviewed and you understand their story, it is underpinned by a significant journey of consistently applying discipline in their skill acquisition and their skill development and doing the small things repeatedly in order to achieve those moments of success. If I step outside of sport and the arts, move into business, you couldn't find a more consistent individual than Warren Buffett. When he talks about his investing strategy, he talks about the benefit of compounding, the benefit of holding onto investments over the long term. He has a set of principles that he doesn't deviate from. He doesn't chase quick wins, short-term gains. He has stuck to those principles for decades. He is still active and high profile into his mid-90s. So these examples are all around us. I think the driving message here is, if it's good enough for these elite, world-renowned figures in sport, the arts, business, then it's good enough for all of us. We all need to reflect and develop consistency in order to give ourselves the best chance of realizing our own individual potential in all aspects of our lives. So why do so many people struggle with consistency? Well, I think in a nutshell, too often it's linked with motivation. And motivation ebbs and flows. Naturally, some days we feel more compelled to take the actions that will move us towards our dreams, and other days we don't. And motivation for me is too determined by external factors, whereas consistency is the ability to do what's right, do what's required, irrespective what's going on externally, irrespective whether we feel capable to do something or not. This recording is a case in point for me. I'm currently nursing a classic case of the man flu. I wasn't sure whether I was going to record, but I record every week and I aspire to consistently put content out on this podcast every single week. And it would have been the ultimate perversity to not record a podcast about consistency because I was feeling a little bit under the weather. So consistency helps drive us forward. It's that discipline to do the small things consistently, irrespective where our level of motivation is. Now, that might sound easy in theory, but how do we actually break that down? What steps can we take to enhance our level of consistency? So as usual, I want to share some actionable takeaways that I believe you can apply to help you build that consistency into your day-to-day lives. Tip number 1, define your non-negotiables. Now, deep down, when we're brutally honest with ourselves, we all know the critical steps we need to take on a daily or weekly basis in order to move us towards the achievement of our dreams and our goals. Take the time to reflect, take the time to identify what they are, and then you have a North Star. You need to know what those non-negotiables are so that you can then step into the essential of consistency. How can we know what to do if we haven't first set those non-negotiables? Tip number 2, create a routine. Now, perhaps you are one of the 1% who can simply decide in your mind, I'm going to achieve this personally, this professionally, these are my health goals, these are my relationship goals, this is what I'm going to achieve at work, and just find the time and stay on top of all those goals and all the required actions. But for the vast majority of us, that's not realistic. We've got to give ourselves a fighting chance. So once we've articulated and defined those non-negotiables, take a look at your working week. Take a look at the full 7-day week. Take a look at the month ahead and start to block in certain key tasks that respond to delivering on those personal and professional goals, and block out certain tasks, certain activities that you know need to happen. When you put things into your calendar, when you put them into your diary, the likelihood of you achieving them is so much higher. And it isn't just a diary for personal demands or a diary for professional demands. Blend it all together. Be able to take a snapshot of your working day and understand, where am I present as a parent? When am I going to try and work out? When am I in meetings? When am I taking that deep reflective time to achieve the strategic tasks I need to achieve to move me forward professionally? Start to block out elements of time and you will find it so much easier to build consistency into your day-to-day operations. Tip number 3, communicate consistently. Communication's a huge area for me, an area I'm very, very passionate about supporting leaders and teams truly optimized to build those high performance environments. And so I could take this particular point down so many roads, but fundamentally, people need to understand who you are, what you stand for, and see that reinforced in your communication consistently. You will never build a high-performing team if 1 minute you flip one way, the next minute you flip another way. There's no consistency in what you stand for or how you communicate your expectations and your desires. Your team are looking to you to set the direction of travel. You are the emotional thermostat of the organization. As I've said before, you need the discipline to be consistent in how you lead and how you operate as that emotional thermostat so that your people have a clear North Star from which they can take their direction from. Tip number 4, commit to showing up. Sometimes just turning up is half the battle. As I've alluded to today, not feeling 100%, struggling with the proverbial man flu, it's easy to say, I won't record a podcast this week. But I've made that pledge to myself. I am consistently in the routine of recording my podcast at the start of each and every week. And therefore, it's so much easier to say, I've cleared this space in my calendar. This is what I do on a Monday morning, and I am going to turn up and do it to the best of my ability. Tip number 5, measure progress over time. It's very easy to commit to a new action, a new habit, and then be impatient and then disillusioned when you don't see results. I heard a speaker recently talk about the notion of planting a seed. You wouldn't turn up the next day expecting to see a tree, dig it up, throw it to one side and say, I've been scammed, where's my tree? And that particular analogy is relevant to all of us. Results don't happen overnight. There is a period where perhaps you don't see any benefit. And if you want to frame that in a more logical analogy, it'd be around physical health. Just because we turn up at the gym for a couple of weeks consistently doesn't mean we radically transform our physical health or our appearance or our energy levels. But if we consistently do that over a period of months and look back at where we were at the beginning of the journey, then we will notice a radical difference. And I believe that's true in every facet of our lives. If you want to see genuine results and take heart from that and find the energy and the confidence to keep going, then don't box yourself in by comparing short-term windows. Take an elongated window, a period of weeks minimum, perhaps months, and then compare with where you were at the start of the journey. You will see the noticeable differences, and it will become so much easier to find that consistency to keep going and building on the momentum that you've created. The next tip I want to frame is adjust, but don't abandon. What do I mean by this? Well, we all will face bumps in the road, periods of hardship, elements that will ding our confidence and perhaps make us consider quitting. But we must never abandon. If we're going to truly embrace consistency, and alluded to my earlier point of showing up, we've got to find a way to keep moving forward. Even if that progress is small baby steps, we keep the momentum moving forward. And a classic example could be health and fitness. We start out with all of the best intentions, we jump on a running routine, and then we succumb to an injury. Perhaps we succumb to an impact injury. Our knee, our ankle starts to flare up. Well, we could just abandon all training, or we could adapt. We could move into the gym. We could do different elements of workouts. We could try a bike. We could try things that may be less impactful. We may try upper body workout routines, but we adapt the routine so that we are still doing something. And it's the same with work, whatever professional strategy you embark on. I worked with somebody recently who knew they needed to seek out some mentorship. The first person they spoke to wasn't particularly engaged and gave a no. That could have been the end of the conversation, but it wasn't. The individual didn't abandon the plan. They adjusted. They approached somebody else. They gave a completely different response, were extremely open to it, began mentoring the individual, and a wonderful relationship ensued that was supremely beneficial to both the mentor and the mentee. So don't abandon plans. Adjust and find a way to keep consistently moving forward, irrespective of what roadblock or adversity you meet on the journey. Another major tip for embracing and embedding consistency is to embrace the mornings. Now, not everybody's a morning person. I accept that. But talking in generalizations of everybody that I've worked with, most people find that their ability to be consistent, their ability to find energy or confidence can erode through the day. It's almost as if we start with a full battery, and every interaction, every challenge, every task executed, every meeting engaged in drains and depletes that battery a little bit. So, with the best will in the world, if we push things back and say, I will definitely do that workout, or I will definitely have that difficult conversation with a member of my team at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, the likelihood is significantly reduced that you will, in fact, execute. Whereas if you build those difficult tasks, be it a workout, be it a difficult conversation with a colleague, a boss, a direct line member of your team, then your energy is high and you get it done and you get it out of the way. Many of you will have heard that notion of eat the frog. The book by Brian Tracy talks about those big, difficult tasks that we know we need to get out of the way. Well, these aren't always necessarily the most difficult tasks. We're not saying that we're jumping into extreme Olympic standard workouts, but nonetheless, put them in to your structure in a place that heightens your ability to be consistent. And when you reflect on that, what are the things you know you need to get done? Go back to that very first point, your list of non-negotiables, and then look at where you are structuring them. Build them in to the mornings where possible and reflect and test whether that raises your level of execution and your ability to be consistent. A wonderful X factor in driving your consistency is peer accountability. If you have peers, mentors, colleagues, friends, loved ones, wherever they come from, that understand your non-negotiables, that understand what you are trying to structure and what you are trying to consistently show up and do, then they will help hold you accountable to that. So when you feel your motivation waning and you start to drift away from that plan, they know where you should be and what you should be doing, and they will challenge you. Hey, I thought we were going to do X. Did you have that difficult conversation with your colleague? Did you put that workout in place? Find that level of accountability. It's not just tell everybody and bore everybody to tears with all your big plans, because that's not going to help. I'm talking about focusing in on those people that are genuinely connected to you, that genuinely care about you, that will embrace their role as an accountability partner. And if possible, bring them into the same tasks. The classic example that I always use is working out. If you can find somebody in your office that will go for a jog or a walk across lunchtime with you, or perhaps meet up and do something before work or indeed after work, then it becomes much easier to be consistent, because you know you've got somebody counting on you and vice versa, and you don't want to let them down. The next tip is start small and enjoy the growth. So many of us decide, right, I need to achieve X or Y, and then they aggressively go after it, only to frustrate themselves, lose that motivation, and the consistency falls away. The classic time of year is the New Year resolution. We're going to be the healthiest we've ever been, the best partner, the most present parent, the super performer at work. And we build ourselves up with these high level expectations, only to find that we can't sustain them in the short term, or we attack the workout routine too aggressively. We're riddled with soreness and stiffness. We can't get out of bed, and we just abandon ship. Well, it's far better to say, yes, I want to be a superstar performer. Yes, I want to be more present as a parent. Yes, I want to be in the best physical shape of my life. But I know I can't do it overnight. And to create some small steps, because when we start small, we feel that growth, we feel that momentum, it emboldens our confidence, and it's easier to find the consistency. And then it becomes much easier to keep layering our goals on top of each other and steadily increasing our output and our performance in all aspects of our life. We then genuinely enjoy the growth. And going back to my earlier point, when you look back over a period of months, you're unrecognizable. Far better to start small and grow consistently month upon month than to build deluded expectations and crash and burn in month one. That's not going to help you build the consistency you need to truly realize your potential. Something else that I believe is very important is never try and overcompensate when you fail to be consistent. So what do I mean by that? Well, there will be days where life takes over. You had the best intention to execute something at work, to deliver that workout, and for whatever reason, you didn't do it. You have to accept that occasionally happens and look forwards rather than backwards. The worst thing you can do is say to yourself, right, well, I didn't do it yesterday, so I need to double the effort today. We see that a lot. I didn't work out, so I'm going to do double the intensity today. All you're going to do is end up injuring yourself in that scenario. Or I didn't deliver to the standard I wanted, so I'm going to put more pressure on myself at work and I'm going to catch up. Yes, it's wise to say, okay, I need to catch up. But there's a balance to what I'm saying here. And I think it lands most effectively in that workout scenario. If we're taking small, consistent steps and you're trying to get in the pool and swim for half an hour, you miss a day, you miss 2 days, there's no point absolutely exhausting yourself, swimming for an hour and a half, compromising the quality of what you do and eroding your ability to be consistent. Accept and give yourself permission that even with the best laid plans, clearly identified non-negotiables, the right things structured into your calendar at the right time, peer accountability, small steps being taken consistently, and all of the tips we've talked about today, for varying reasons, there will be days when you simply cannot show up. Accept it, put it behind you, and move on. Try and minimize those days, but don't beat yourself up and double down on the workload, because that is more than likely to either physically hurt you or just exhaust you and erode your ability to be consistent in the future. And my final point on this is to truly embrace the notion that every day is easier than most days. Now, this isn't talking in riddles and contradicting some of my earlier points of don't panic if you miss the occasional day. I still stand by that. But aspirationally, make what is truly important, what is part of your non-negotiables, a part of your daily routine. Make it a part of your identity. It's just who you are. That makes it so much easier to be consistent. If being a truly present parent is who you are, then you will find ways each and every day to be present. A moment around the dinner table, reading a bedtime story, genuinely checking in and putting your phone down when you ask your son or daughter how the day's been. If who you are is a fit and healthy role model to your family and your professional colleagues, then you will find opportunities to move, to take the stairs over the elevator, to build in workouts before work, to do something across lunchtime. Wherever the opportunities arise, you will take them because it's just part of who you are, as opposed to, well, I go to the gym once a week. That's easy to drift away from versus I'm somebody that really cares about the physical health and the impact it has on all aspects of my life. So when we talk about the non-negotiables at the start of this episode, these lead into the identity that you wish to create. How do you want to be known? Present partner, loving and connected parent, inspirational leader, empathetic colleague. Whatever those traits, whatever those non-negotiables are, step into them on a daily basis. Once they become part of your identity, you will find it so much easier to be consistent in your application and execution against them. I'd like to finish this episode just by articulating a quote from Tony Robbins. And he says, "It's not what we do once in a while that shapes our lives. It's what we do consistently." And I think that ties very much into several of the points we've made today. Consistency isn't the most glamorous of leadership essentials, but it is absolutely fundamental. What are our non-negotiables? How are we going to go after them? How can we build those daily habits and practices to make them a part of who we are each and every day of our life? When we can truly find consistency, we benefit massively as individuals, and so does everybody that we lead and interact with in our professional role and personal life. I wish you the best of luck in embracing and finding new levels of consistency in your lives. Thanks for listening to the Lonely Leader podcast. I'd be very grateful if you could share and follow if the content resonates. And if you're looking for additional free resource to support your continued growth and development, then please do check out our social media and website details in the show notes. Remember, quality leadership on the outside must always start within.